Okay, I hope that internet will work well because I'm not home, I'm in Croatia, escaping lockdown in the Netherlands. Okay, welcome everybody. If I get into any sort of technical problem that, I don't know, my screen is not visible or there is something wrong with my sound or whatever, then Kalia is going to let me know. This is my first time that I'm doing this kind of lecturing at Killer Chess, but this lecturing is actually meant to be promotion of my book, which has been published by Quality Chess. The book is about Magnus Carlsen and his middle game evolution, and this is volume number 1. There are going to be 2 volumes in total. The idea was actually to publish a second volume very quickly. But okay, the problem, not the problem, but the way, let's say, World Championship match went, because I wanted to put a World Championship match into this second book. Well, World Championship match was not terribly long and not terribly exciting. So actually, that means that coming up with the volume number 2, there is no rush with it. We will come with volume number 2. Quality Chess will publish volume number 2, but there is no rush for it for or something like this. I have selected here a number of games of Magnus Carlsen, which I did in this book, and the book has many examples. There's also a number of losses in this amongst the games chosen, and I have tried to somehow shed a light on the way he was developing in his middle games and his strong points, and also, of course, comparatively speaking, his weak points, really comparatively speaking, from his very high standards. So what I will, let's say, start, I will try this to make interactive as much as I can. Well, both Jakob and Kalia, they have warned me that you are quite a huge group and that your playing strength of people who are watching this vary. So I hope somehow that everybody will find something for himself or herself. I will start with the one game which Magnus played versus Nakamura 8 years ago, so 2014. Maybe some of you have seen this game, some of you have not. And I'm going to move the board around because Magnus was black in this game. Okay. What is interesting about Magnus is that he is very often in trouble, but he actually rarely loses. This game is sort of a very good example of him in a difficult situation, trying to make absolutely the best out of terrible situation. And finally, he will manage to win this game versus Nakamura. And this game also, just like amongst many other games, I have also tried to make sort of, let's say, plenty of games a very good calculation exercise. Because I wanted somehow this book to be educational, as a book of one of the greatest players, maybe the greatest players that ever lived, and also to be training examples so that actually you can train yourself with a number of examples from the book. And so I will start here. Okay, white is Nakamura. It is classical time limit. It is obvious that white is having tremendous attack. Black king has no defenders. White wants to take on g6 and to simply mate black. Magnus had often a habit, let's say, that not to panic, not to panic in a very bad situation. So he's taking the best that he can, and he takes bishop b2. Bishop b2 and knight c4. What can he do? Because he understands that the game on a king side is lost. So the only way to try to somehow muddy waters is to create a mess on a queen side. He took bishop knight c4, h takes g6. Well, position already looks pretty grim. because, well, you cannot really take, because you will get mated. Technically speaking, at this moment, white is also piece up. I mean, you yet have to get this bishop back, and it looks like that white is mating back. Magnus played very calm move, queen b6. Hitting on a b2. What is the problem? Problem is when he takes on b2, it is not exactly a checkmate. A king can move away, which gives Nakamura actually extra time. You may say that extra time in such a kind of position is simply decisive. White has here different ways to win the game. If you would analyze it, for example, here computer will give you different ways with white to come to forced win. Let's say an engine is giving here a different ways to come to +5 or +8 or +7. And this is something which people often make a mistake, because somehow when they see such a kind of positions and the engine is blinking with all these ridiculous assessments, it is automatically understood that for any kind of human, it is extremely easy to win such kind of game. We would see that Nakamura would actually play logical moves, and he will ruin the game to a draw, and then he will lose the game. So his actually first move is, I think, logical. Your engine would say that gf7 is also winning, but he's playing move g7, which is very logical move. He's hitting a rook, and he's ready to create some sort of mating net. Queen h4, very logical play. He wants to deliver checkmate, rook b2, not much else to be done. King goes. Checkmate is a threat. And also g6 is sort of a threat. If queen moves, takes, queen g6. Okay, position looks completely lost. And here Nakamura plays a move, knight f5, also a very logical move. Bringing the last piece in play, rook e8. If you look at this position, it is very difficult to believe that Nakamura did not win this game, because white is having press attack. At the same time, black is not having many moves here. And computer is here giving, in this position, like +6, +7. So you are in a better position than Nakamura, because nobody could tell him during the game, hey, you're at +7. But okay, how would you win this position? I see that there is somebody proposing move d6. Okay, take a little bit of your time. I will give you like 3-4 minutes. Let's say I will give you like 4 minutes, and then propose a move. Of course, d6 is the first move which comes in a human mind. This is correct, but is it the best one? And I'm warning you, things are not as simple as they seem, because Nakamura will first let a win slip, and then he will finally even lose the game. So I will give you, let's say now, okay, it's 6-11, I will give you like 4 minutes. Think about this position and what would you do as white. And type. You are free to type, because I think that Kalias has set the things that only I and the panelists that we can see the chat, not the rest of people. Okay. Correct. What Arda here is typing is correct. Okay. Arda here is starting to figure out some minus points of move d6. Okay. But here is going in the right direction. To lose, but says unfortunately no threats. Okay, this is something which is interesting because what Nakamura did not realize actually, and you also did not going to be running a video because I don't know, I don't want to have a quarrel with this bandwidth. So first thing is actually what happens after move like d6? What is going on? Let me see if anybody figured out. Better not to see me, but then we don't have any kind of problems. So d6, okay, correct. d6, what Aridia is saying, okay, the problem is indeed that you take. And after takes, all out of sudden, actually, situation is not clear. Because problem is if you play move knight f5 to threaten mate, you get mated yourself. And now, depending where king will go, there is going to come check on e6 and check on b3 with the mate, or check on b6 will come and check on b3 with the mate. Same story. And if knight goes to c4, okay, it is not a mate any longer for black, but now black cannot mate any longer. But now, well, knight is running away from a king. Black has many pawns. This is not so clear. So actually, Nakamura needed to understand in this game is that here it is very strange. If white loses a move, white simply wins. Let's say the easiest way to win is to lose a move. And this is what he didn't understand during the game. Now game is over because, okay, you cannot move rook, you cannot move queen, you cannot knight. So you have to touch pawn. What can you do? b5 or b6, same story. Now this move simply wins. And game is over. Game is completely over. Rook d8, you go away. Even if technically now rook d1 was possible, there is, let's suppose that rook was on h2. Even if this was possible, who cares? Because king will go to b2. There is no more check on a b file, and game is finished. So only thing which Nakamura needed to do was to kind of understand, hey, I cannot push d6. Yes, I think that as long as this pawn is touched on b pawn, and b pawn needs to be touched because there is actually no other move. He's simply in a Zugzwang. b6 or b5, who cares? Now this move is simply winning. Takes, rook d8. Knight goes back. And now it is going to deliver a checkmate. And this check does not help any longer because the stupid pawn stands in the way. Nakamura did not realize it. He will actually, but he understood. It is interesting, actually, I didn't see it because he understood that d6 is not a good move here. This is what he figured out because he didn't push d6. But he somehow failed to, maybe there was not much time. Maybe he was overexcited winning versus Magnus, but he didn't somehow realize, hey, if I lose a move here, any move, black would be forced to touch a b pawn, and then d6 is going to work. So he played queen g4, queen b6, queen h3, queen g6. Okay, what is easiest way to win? Lose a move. And same story. You must touch your b pawn because knight a3, d6. There is no single threat. Now d7 or knight e7 are both deadly threats. And okay, b6 or b5, doesn't matter. And now game is finished. Completely over. So Hikaru, now maybe time pressure, he pushed d6. Takes. Now actually game is about equal. He played knight c4. Okay, move like knight f5 is losing. He will get checkmated. Knight c8 was interesting move. But this is already getting very tricky. King takes. Hit the queen. Check. You reach some very strange ending, which is actually not really clear. Computer is giving around zeros because white is a piece up. This is true. But this knight is almost trapped. Question, where is mate if queen is covering b3? Well, okay, let's say you jump. Queen is covering b3, but Paul, queen is not covering b1. So I give you a rook d1, king a2, check on e6, king b2, queen b6, and queen b1 checkmate. No, here already queen is gone. Hikaru plays move knight c4, queen e4. Okay, we have now unbelievable turn of events. King is now safe. Nothing is threatening. This king is open. Well, black has 3 pawns for a piece. This pawn on g7 is probably going to fall. So it is more than that. And now situation is very tricky for white. Queen h5 is a losing move. This is move number 40. This is move number 40, but here probably Brian is saying that he was watching it live. I'm pretty sure Hikaru was not in time pressure, but he was probably in time pressure here. And this is difficult because it is now move 40. And what everybody is having a problem dealing with, be it a total amateur or being it one of the world best players, is when position dramatically changes its nature. It is difficult to adjust to those changes. Why? Because we are not computers. No, knight e5 is not possible because king is under check. This is a general problem. That why is, for example, computer always beating humans from almost any kind of position, is that we as humans, we have a problem, first of all, to admit a mistake. Second problem, when the position has dramatically changed. For example, if you will put this position in front of Nakamura as a starting position, most likely he would have found here a best move, which is knight e3. But it is very difficult for him to forget about position which he had only a couple of moves ago. Completely winning position black without any kind of counterplay. And this dramatic change of events is going to cause his downfall. Because here move 93 is actually holding a draw. What is purpose of move 93? Well, the purpose is to protect the king. Let's say queen d3, you want to give a checkmate. Now g6 is a good move. Queen a3 is just a draw. And now king b2. Now, for example, if I play again, if my pawn would have been, let's say, on b5, white would play move 9 to 5 and still win. Because now problem with knight f5 is again, I make check. And if pawn will be on b6 or b5, white will win. But okay, unfortunately, queen b6 checkmate. So here, for example, on king b2, c4 is losing. Because now you're lucky enough to get into ending, but actually this ending is losing ending. Because this pawn is very strong, and you are going to run out of moves. So black needs to return the queen, knight f5, and here the smartest for black is to make a draw by perpetual check. Check, king moves to a2, let's say check, and okay, endless number of checks. Hikaru could not adjust to this situation. He played move queen h5, and okay, now actually he's losing because he's not having any threats. Now, well, queen d4 is very serious check. He stops it, queen f5. Now already he's on a big defensive. Rook a3 was also winning, but Magnus took. Okay, now, well, smoke has cleared, I would say. What is black's problem? White's problem? Well, white's problem is simply that black is having too many pawns. Nothing to be done for this piece. Black is having too many pawns. And black easily now wins. Not necessary even to be Magnus to win such a game. You cannot win a pawn because of queen c1. Okay, he gets 5 pawns for a piece. And now he's simply pushing those pawns. Pushing those pawns. And okay, now game is over. Not surprisingly. And he took a queen. This check was actually knight check. I guess that, you know, h1 queen is winning as well because I would run out of this check, but why to give this chance? Magnus first eliminates check on e7, and now he will queen. There is not a single check, and game is over. So we have here the situation of a great player losing a mistake, making a mistake and losing. What I will do now, also what Magnus was very good at, is actually, he's very good, what I try to establish during this book and to give example of, he's very good at giving opponents possibility to make a mistake. Okay, everybody can make a mistake, but let's say, in order for somebody to jump, you need to open him a window. Otherwise, he will not jump, he or she. And Magnus is very good at giving people possibilities to do something wrong. And not always playing the move which he thinks is the best. I'm almost convinced that in many situations, he does not play a move which he thinks is the best one. He plays a move which he thinks is the most unpleasant one, which is not always the best move. And he won a lot of games because of this. I will now pick up one game. Can we say that Magnus is similar to Lasker in this respect? I think so. I think that he lost a lot, he learned a lot from Lasker, but also I think that he learned a lot from Fischer. Because, okay, Fischer is saying, I don't believe in psychology, I believe in only strong moves. But if I will look at his games, sorry, his games tells me something different. That many times he played a move which I'm almost certain he didn't consider the best, but he considered the most unpleasant moves. And this is what Magnus is also very good at, unbalancing his opponent by playing the most unpleasant move. And I will, for example, pick up one interesting game. It was a Grand Slam. Game is played a long time ago. Magnus was extremely strong, but he was not yet well at his peak, obviously. So, but he was 27-75. It was a Grand Slam, and okay, I will come to one position. Yes, but I hope that majority of viewers did not see it. This is very well known. This is very well known variation of a Maron, B4. Because what white would like to do, of course, black here needs to liberate. In order to liberate, black would like to push c5. But okay, this pawn is basically hanging, and if you play a move like a6, maybe I'm going to stop you. So b4, very common way of playing it. Knight e4, knight e4, bishop takes, and castles. This is all non-theory. You can also take with of course, you can take on a6, on a3, obviously. But here the focus is on quick development and stopping move c5. So castles, knight f6 hitting a bishop, bishop moves, takes, and a5. What black would like to do, black would like to place this bishop to b4. Castle, and then there is no longer check on b5, simply push c5 and liberate himself. This was very topical variation at the time, because before a Grand Slam took place in 2008, they had this World Championship tournament which took place. Here, this was very topical example. D5 was here played by Magnus in the game. Okay, existing theory was queen a4, or some game between Topalov and Kramnik, I think, or Kramnik and Gelfand. Kramnik was, I think, white, Gelfand was black, bishop b4, bishop a3, knight d5, for example. To understand this position, what does white want? If you are wondering why did white, it was very topical at the time. What does white want to achieve? Okay, ideal scenario for white is something like this. Let's say you castle, and I take, get my one pawn back, and then I'm hoping to make black's life miserable when it comes to this pawn on c6. This is what I'm then hoping. And to eventually win this pawn and to play 5 versus 4 on the same side. This is what white would love to do, but it is not easy to get it done. Let's say in this game, Gelfand played 95, e4, knight b6, queen back, queen e7, and rook a b1. Rook fb1 can be played, but white does not get what white wants, because now black simply is going to liquidate into a draw. Move c5 is going to come. You cannot stop me from liquidating into a draw, because if you try to stop me, it is only postponing the decision by one move. Nothing is changing here. And game is going to be a draw. We will get pawn symmetry 4 versus 4. I think in a Gelfand's game, Kramnik played move rook a b1, and Gelfand took, which is very good judgment, because now you cannot really castle, because now if you castle, it's not the same story. Because I will take, and okay, you're losing a piece. Or you are not losing a piece. No, you're not losing a piece. But you're having a problem with the pawn structure, because take. Now, the only way to save a piece is bishop a6, but position is basically worse, because now you have this problem. So actually, Gelfand made quite a superb judgment to sacrifice exchange. Sorry, not to sacrifice exchange, but to take here to allow queen b6, 91. And game is about to draw. Because in rook ending, it's not the same story. We are both having a weak pawn. Both sides are having a weak pawn, and they agree to a draw. Of course, engines are always good at pointing out things. Computer says here that d5 is an unpleasant move. You cannot take because you are way too behind in development. And if e-pawn takes, okay, this is unpleasant situation for black. Though computer is saying that this bishop on b4 is so strong and being protected by this pawn on a5 that black should be okay here. Even though optically it looks like black to be in a trouble, perhaps. And Magnus, of course, knew this. Aronian also, they knew this. So here move d5 is for sure not played, because it's for sure that Carlsen not think, well, this is a brilliant sacrifice and now I'm basically better. But this puts Aronian in a practically very difficult situation, because, okay, for a black, it is very easy to discard c takes, because, okay, it simply looks wrong. You cannot play king d7 because you're mated, and this looks simply horrible. For various reasons, including maybe just, including simple move like rook c1 and rook c8 and crushing everything. So out of 4 possibilities, because this pawn has to be captured, okay, one is very easy to discard. This is e takes d5. But then Aronian is stuck with 3 normal moves, all 3 of which are perfectly playable. And this is actually when you get to face in a practical game during the game, it is not difficult to react when you run into preparation. And let's say, okay, it is always difficult, you need to be a good player. But let's say that you run into somebody's preparation and you are having only moves to stay in the game, and all the other moves are losing straightforward. Okay, then you go through elimination system, and you, provided you have enough time, you kind of eliminate those kind of things and you find the best moves. And normally speaking, okay, you get out of trouble. Here, all black 3 possible moves are playable. Knight d5, which was played by Aronian, and which is very logical. Queen d5, which computer thinks is the best move, and puts actually white really to prove this compensation, or e d5. Okay, let's see the possibilities. In a way, it is easy to understand Aronian, because, okay, with e d5, you are changing a pawn structure and you are allowing this knight to square f5 for a better or worse, which looks dangerous. Let's say, okay, you play bishop b4 because of bishop e7, knight f5, and on castles, game over. Because when you take, okay, there's going to be a checkmate. And you cannot stop mate on queen f5, you cannot stop checkmate on h7. So bishop b4 is needed to be played, jump. And now this is very unpleasant. For example, again, you cannot castle because of knight g7 move. Computer engine is saying that after g6 or king f8, king f8, queen f3, there is a compensation. But okay, both sides can play. It is very easy to understand that Aronian not willing to enter this kind of position. To take by queen, which computer is giving us the best move, because engine is saying that queen takes is the best. Again, it's easy to understand him not doing this, because queen b1, okay, bishop f6 is a threat. You need to develop, okay, this bishop is very strong, but now queen looks a little bit tricky here, because queen is almost trapped. But c5 is possible. Let's engine is here quite happy with the black. He's saying that white is engine. My Stockfish 14 is saying that white is fighting to keep the balance. Though those moves are not easy to play in practice. Also, engine is saying that castles is playable. Such a kind of position. Computer is giving zeros. It is easy though to understand Aronian that when he saw this, that he didn't like it. So he took by knight, probably the most logical move. And knight e5. Okay, if we evaluate this kind of position, at the first glance, you may say, well, what is black supposed to do? Well, if black can castle and lose both of those two pawns in the process, who cares? It will be 4 versus 4, and it will be a draw. But Magnus will keep somehow tension that for Aronian will not be easy to get into this. He plays knight f6. Bishop b4 was maybe the best move. But again, it is easy to understand Aronian because, for example, queen g4. This looks very dangerous. But you castle. And there is actually nothing really much going on. Such a position. Computer is giving some zeros. If, for example, a knight c4 in such a position, knight c4 would be fantastic move because you are hitting a queen and you cannot play move bishop c3 because you would take and you would play knight takes d6. And this could be the reason why Aronian did not play move bishop b4, because maybe he simply quickly calculated queen g4, queen f6, knight c4, and well, looks like a bad news. But actually h5 is keeping black in the game, and more than just keeping black in the game. Queen goes, h4, queen h6, takes, rook moves, and actually black is here probably better. Because black is a pawn up, not simple to prove any kind of compensation. Aronian played the most arguably logical move, knight f6. Probably he was exactly having philosophy in mind, which I was talking about. I will lose those two pawns maybe in the process, I don't care. I will castle, and it will be pawn symmetry. But Magnus keeps initiative, queen a4, bishop b4, takes, 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 king e7, rook d1, rook c8. It looks like should be easy for black to make a draw because black needs to move this rook and move a king or keep the king. Because actually this bishop is extremely strong piece and is well protected. and bishop is protecting a king. Bishop is protecting this basically diagonal. So you cannot do much there. Bishop d4. Queen back. Well, now Magnus is disturbing this rook. Not easy decision, because here the best move was rook c2. Controlling the c file, controlling the c5 square. In a way, it is easy to understand Iranian that he wanted to not to have, let's say, loose pieces if king is in the center. So that he wanted to keep a king closer, rook closer to his king. But rook c2 was probably good. Okay, he can make a draw. If he wants to play for a win, rook b1, rook d8, let's say g3, h6. Computer is giving some sort of zeros. You can always hit this rook and make a draw, or you can play something like this. Again, queen b8, probably you are not better, not worse. But this is again unpleasant choice. And he played here move rook d8, which is a mistake. Bishop b7, which is not the best move. Rook a b1 was actually best move. And it will be really here a problem. Because rook d5, because if rook d6, you get into this kind of trouble. And now g4. And you don't have a good move. Because, okay, the problem is that takes, and king doesn't run anywhere. And will be a checkmate. g5, g6 is a terrible threat. And there is not actually very much black can do about this, because okay, h6 is only postponing. I can take and take a rook. g6 is only postponing the execution. There is no draw, and okay, now game is lost. Because I'm threatening rook, and I'm threatening mate into f4 and queen h3. f4 and queen h3 is a forced checkmate, or f4 and queen f7, doesn't matter. So Magnus missed on this best option, because on if rook d5, which is the best move, okay, position is not lost for black, but is not terribly far from this. Because you will have these typical, for example, what is a long term, very difficult to hold. Long term is always very difficult to hold when, let's say, when you are on the defending sides of opposite color bishop. This is most of the time a nightmare, because, okay, you cannot trade opponent's bishop, and you cannot oppose it. So this will be long-term suffering for a black. In the game, happen move bishop b7, h5, e5 was the best move, but probably Iranian was started with rook d8. This kind of policy not to make, let's say, loose moves. e5 was probably forcing equality. And okay, now we have a drawish position. 4 versus 4. He played h5, which is also looks like logical move. h3. Rook a b1 is probably the best move, because with rook a b1 you are renewing a threat. e5 takes. And now, let's say, if this move, you end being a pawn up. But okay, there is a move to make a draw and run with the king to f8. And probably black is going to survive this. In the game itself, happened h3. Magnus is simply keeping attention. I'm having a question if on my move rook a b1, somebody is playing move knight g4. Okay, you tell me what is wrong with move knight g4. What is wrong with move knight g4? Why is knight g4 a bad move? Correct. Rook takes b4 and bishop c5, because queen h2 is just an empty check. So here, Magnus keeps on keeping attention. Now h4 will be a serious mistake. e5 was needed. And probably a draw. h4. Probably Aronian thought, okay, this king is safe, and I don't want to touch my e6 pawn. I want to have a possibility to maybe later on bring my rook in play. Not immediately rook h5 because it will lose material, but later. And probably he did not exactly see the way for white to improve. But okay, h4. Rook b1. Now rook b4 is finally coming as a threat. e5 takes. He took a b4, which loses. But now this move doesn't help either, because of this stupid pawn. He will lose this pawn. Here also the pawn is running. Again, pawn on h5 would have been better. If, for example, move like rook e8, okay, now he has a problem because of this pawn. It will not be 4 versus 3, because most likely black is going to lose first a pawn and then h pawn. So this h4 was probably played with easy hand. Maybe he didn't really realize the consequence. Here he understood the consequence, that any kind of, let's say, trades of pieces, this pawn will be a problem. And okay, he took, and now he's in a bad news. He's a rook moves. And it is impossible to avoid material. If queen took, there would be rook a6. And okay, he's now losing material. There are different moves to win this position. I mean, bishop d3 is also winning. I don't understand. Wendy Woodward is asking me. Wendy Woodward is asking me if move rook a8 is immediately winning. Let me think of this. Maybe she's right. Okay, sorry. She wants to Wendy wants to play move rook a8, collect a rook and win the game. Takes. I think that you are right, Wendy. As far as I could see, I think that you are right, because this pawn cannot queen. It is a long way off from queening. And yeah, I think that game is over. I think that you are right. As far as I could see, you're right. Yeah, you are completely right. This is also possible. So this was example of a game that actually Aronian needed to take many decisions. He didn't need to take any kind of maybe particularly difficult decision, but he was given choices. All the game, he was given different kind of choices until finally, basically, he took the wrong one. And this is what you have in many games of a Carlsen. For example, there is one example. I would give another one. Let me see here what I have from the games. Because I have done different things, also some games which he lost. How is he trying to create problems? How is he trying to create a mess? putting opponents under different kind of choices. I was also analyzing his games coming from different openings, like from Linked to Indian, for example, Samish. I did give quite a chapter on this, which also could be good for people to theoretical knowledge. But I would, for example, here pick up, let's say, one game which I was quite impressed about. This is game which with Wesley saw. Okay, we have this kind of position. It looks like black is doing well because it came from Linked Indian. Knight is very well placed on b4. Black will probably move queen, maybe move a rook. Okay, perhaps at some stage jump on e4. Or kick this knight out a different way. So black is doing very well here. But a lot of people here would have with white played move maybe f3 or h3. But Magnus here takes rather drastic step. He plays move e4. Okay, what is happening after e4? He's taking, he's making strategically very responsible move because he's actually forcing position where he's going to be having isolated pawn, fighting for a draw. Because it is clear here that, well, black is not running any risk. White is running some risk. But this is a superb judgment because he has superb judgment actually that pawn on a5 is also weak and that black is not going to be able to improve because black will also have a headache defending his own pawn on a5. And what is impressive about this is if you would ask computer, look, e4 is the best move. And if he doesn't play e4, he's really going to get into trouble, which is not obvious at first hand. It's not obvious in this position in first hand if you don't play e4 that you are going direction -1. Because somehow position looks like it is not so dramatic that white needs such a kind of drastic decisions in order to liquidate into a draw or equality, but actually it is needed. And this is superb judgment. And now, well, white has weak pawns, black has weak pawns too. Knight will come to c4, and both players are having weaknesses to. For example, rook d8, okay, move knight. If you take, take, take. If c5, doesn't matter. And king will be in time. You can't promote. I will get my pawn back, and it will be a draw. If queen d4, yes, correct. Queen d4 is a terrible blunder because of rook e8, correct. So b5 was played by Wesley. Okay, logical move. He is preventing move knight c4, and he is hoping to get ab, cb, which would be excellent scenario, because then you get the possibility of creating a pass pawn while you are still having excellent blockade on d5. But okay, Magnus doesn't do it. Knight g4 takes, knight takes, queen e4, knight g4, and they agree to a draw. Because if you take, nothing changes because we are both having a pawn to a weakness to worry about. So this is, for example, can be used as a quite a good exercise of strategic assessment of the position. Because somebody needs to be a very strong player to understand here that by far, first of all, that white is on a verge of getting into serious trouble. And that the best for white is to liquidate with e4, and that liquidation will result actually into a draw, because black is also having a weakness to worry about. Okay, I will now pick up some other game. For example, a game which I like. Okay, this is game between Carlsen and Land. It was played 2012. Again, we would have this situation of giving people choices. And this game, by the way, is also a fantastic calculation exercise. Some lines which is coming on. Yes, Wendy, this is. I think that your memory is good. So here, Carlsen played move e6. It is not clear at all what is the best move. Probably actually the best move is f4. To play for a space advantage. Okay, how much is this advantage worth? I don't know. I think it's not easy to say. But if somebody is better, it should be white. Maybe not much, maybe very little better, but having some pressure. Magnus plays move e6. Here is very similar situation like in Aran's game. Black is having okay choice. All three moves are f6, f5, sorry, f6 or f5, or fe6. All the moves are valid moves, and your engine will tell you that all the moves are perfectly playable. So those are very difficult choices during the game to take. Actually, my stockfish thinks maybe f6 to be the best move here. Not, okay, maybe a simple move also for a human, I don't know. Not easy to take a decision. Look, it is very easy to talk about this when I have analyzed it and okay, I know exactly what computer thinks about the position. Not easy choice. For example, game can continue like this: bishop a5, queen a6, c5. Now you hit my pawn, trade my knight, open the bishop, a4, for example, or rook d1, d4. My engine is giving zeros. Position is complicated. But let's say a4, jump, take, bishop c, rook d1, bishop f6. Position is probably about equal. Okay, computer also wants to take. This looks to me very dangerous, but actually my engine is giving zeros. Because apparently I'm having a problem to build a battery towards this king. Bishop d6, and I want c5, or bishop d6, and I want queen b6 to make it difficult for you to build battery. But of course, bishop f6 is more human move. Another move which is a possibility is of course f5. Probably also about equal. You can get such a kind of position. Both moves are possible, take by king to take by knight. And okay, the best is to make a draw. Decision Anand took, I think, is very logical one to grab this pawn, because he probably thought, okay, what is the worst thing which can happen? We will trade the knights, bishops. White will manage to get his pawn back, and then we are going to have some heavy pieces ending, which looks drawish. Maybe white will be very slightly better because of e-file pressure, but looks very drawish. And here, okay, knight f4, take, d4, logical move. Knight g7 was the other move, and then push. but he pushed immediately. Okay, very logical. Queen d2, push, rook e1, knight moves, and here Carlsen played move g4. Rook e5 was another move, which is also kind of good, let's say, for a exercise. Because here, black needs a counterplay. Yes, black is for the time being a pawn up. But if black doesn't build a counterplay, black is having problems. So what is, let's say, the most logical counterplay for black? Correct, a5, a4. Okay. I want to hit you on this pawn. Rook defense, g4. Now, for example, this is losing. And game is over. Queen b4 can be played. Queen b4 can be played. What with queen b4, what you have a little bit as a problem is this move. Because queen c3 will lead to inferior ending. And if you don't play queen c3, okay, I have this mating threat. And now also you need to worry about e6 pawn. The best move is rook f8. What do you think? Why did he play move rook f8? What can be the reason? Because it looks like wasted tempo. Okay, you can take rook f3, queen h6, rook h3, but this would be very bad position. What could be black's idea to try to survive here? Yeah, try to guess. Because white has primitive threat. Queen h6, knight g5, and checkmate. Okay, but if you play rook f7 to defend h7, I will play move queen h6, knight e8, let's say knight g5 tempo. And then on rook e7, e6 is hanging, and this is going to end bad. Is there some other resource? Okay, very good, Nicholas. You need to place rook on f6 and later to get rid of your g-pawn. Very well done. This is only way to defend this position. But we are not at the end. Now, we have same number of pawns. Okay, now we look for counterplay. Push. If pawn takes, for example, if ba4, now you get your counterplay. But this is very unclear. But best for white is queen h4. Takes, jump. Jump. Takes, g5. Of course, we don't take rook because, okay, there will be queen, but g5. So what to do here? This looks like a devastating situation. Rook f5, only move. Takes. Queen b1 is only move because if you take, you get mated. This is, for example, very good calculation exercise, and given a strength of a player, depending what is the moment when you would ask people to calculate. I will run through you with this because, okay, this is first of all a book promotion. This is not, I'm doing some kind of training, but this is first of all a book promotion. And you have many examples like this in a book, many, where you can simply test yourself or test your student or ask somebody somebody to test you if you have a partner, and put a position at a distance when okay, at a distance given the difficulty you want to give to person to solve it. So queen b1 takes. Now what do we play? Queen e1, correct. When the queen e1 has to be played, for a better or worse, has to be played. Queen e1. And now is an important moment, because rook e5 is losing. So now you need to play rook a6 to send queen to wrong square. But now, what about rook b6? Rook b6 is supposed to be wrong. Well, rook b6. Rook b6, I can play move. Moment. Let me calculate this. Rook b6. I have two moves. One is a bit passive, which rook b1 check, king g2. a1 queen, queen check. King g7, queen e7 check. I start giving you many checks and I'm probably going to mate you. No, rook b6, I don't want to play passive move like rook knight d2, because if I play knight d2, you will take, and then I need to play some passive move with my queen. I prefer to play active move, queen a5. I don't want to put my queen on passive square. Rook b1 check, go up. Queen, check. Now I get counterplay. I get counter attack. Sorry, king takes. I get a counter attack. Because actually my king is now suddenly very safe. And this king is all sorts of trouble. Because, well, though this looks very dangerous, black is not threatening a forced mate. So best move is rook a6. Now the question is what to play here with white. What should we do with white? Because queen a1 is more or less a death sentence. Because this queen is now so passive that black is going to win this game. But what can we do? Black wants to do a1 queen. Correct, queen h4. Or king g2 first, it doesn't matter. Check. King up. Now we have interesting moment. What is arguably the most logical move for black? Rook a2, correct. When Patzer doesn't know what to do, Patzer gives check. Nicholas is correct, king g7. Actually, this is really interesting because in a time pressure, almost everybody would play rook a2. Let's give this check and we see what we do. Actually, rook a2 is a losing mistake. Because now this king is very safe and you need protection of e6 square. And if, let's say, rook f7, same story. This king is safe and now all sorts of trouble is coming. But move king takes, king g7. What I think Wendy pointed out, king is making a draw, correct? King h8 or king, no, king h8, you cannot go to h6 because rook is 6 and you would have a problem with the rook. King h8, yes, and this is a draw. So this is, let's say, one calculation exercise, which are many of those in this book that you can actually give to people. And you can start with a level of difficulty that you want to basically give to a student. Okay, Magnus played g4. Idea is no-brainer. Checkmate. Anand played here move rook c6, which is a losing move. Or move that will put him in trouble. Drawing move, or the best move was queen d6. What can be idea after move knight h3? Let's say I want to do the same thing. What can be the idea? Yes, Wendy, correct? e5. And you are using a similar thing, but now, okay, you don't need even g5, because with g5 you will get into trouble, you will prevent mate, but you will start losing pieces. You will start losing pawns, so you will not get mated, but you will get a bad position. But now square is open for a knight, yeah. 96. And probably these positions, but you can get in trouble. Because if you take, knight is protecting king well, and there is a d-pass pawn. So now it's probably a draw, let's say knight g5. And this ending is probably going to be a draw. Idea f4, I'm having a question. Rook f8, what happens after f5? Well, it is less dramatic than it looks, but let me understand why. Okay, look, one idea is to do simple chess, to take and to jump, if I don't find anything better. If you take, I'm a pawn up. If you don't take, I'm also a pawn up. So Anand had to find queen d6 to make a draw. He played rook, and now he's in trouble. Maybe he was thinking here that this is not so bad because knight is protecting king. d3. He's looking for counterplay. But he missed something. I think Anand, when he was entering into this, he was thinking, okay, I'm not getting mated, not immediately. And I have a terrible threat of d2, rook d1, rook d8. And then, okay, this pawn on d2 is more or less binding white. White cannot make a progress, but white here actually can make a progress. And this is something which Anand most probably missed. White is here having very good resource. What can be white's resource here? Rook e5, correct, Aradia. Because idea is, this is a terrible threat. Terrible threat, correct. Aradia got it right. This is it. And now actually he's in a deep trouble. He played king h8 because, okay, knight h7 is a threat. But now problem is that now I have organized my rooks. By the way, typical Magnus move. Not to give any kind of chance to his opponent. And Anand resigned. You cannot protect the pawn because if you put any of the rooks, there is knight f7 check. And rook d3 is a threat. Rook d3 will come. And then all the other pawns are going to be weak. So this is another example of maybe not playing the best move in the position. Because e6 is objectively not the best move, but it is extremely unpleasant move. Which is asking you questions. I landing in a positions which he did not like. I also did show, let's say, during these losses, a typical is something which he didn't like. For example, this is another Grenka classic. this is game versus an ant. And this is another situation, like, for example, white wants to take on f5. A lot of people would here play move knight g4. Position is probably about equal. Magnus plays the most unpleasant move, which is bishop b2. Okay, for him to have this confidence, for him to play those kind of moves, he needs a lot of confidence. Because he doesn't mind his king side being open, but now there is no longer draw. He took this stuff on a2. This is no longer draw. Maybe game would finish as a draw, but now, what is Anand's problem? Computer is here giving zeros, but there are no more easy moves. Because maybe you're going to mate black. If you don't mate black, okay, this pawn is maybe going to this side. Bishop d4 is immediate threat, this is correct. Anand played here move bishop f2, which is very logical move. Objectively speaking, a strongest move was rook f2, which I don't know, for a human, probably rook f2 is a bit less logical than bishop f2, because somehow bishop f2 is very logical move. With rook f2 is not human move, because with rook f2 you are first of all running away from the control of the promotion square, which is a1. Now, for example, after rook a d8, situation looks very serious, but black is doing quite well. Let's say takes. I mean, white can do okay. Bishop c3, which is only move. You cannot play bishop f1, because with bishop f1 there is some problem. Let me try to understand which one. I think the problem is simply that after queen a1, you have one empty check, and this is it. I want now rook d1, or I want bishop c3. This is just one empty check. So he needs bishop c3. Jump. Now bishop b2 is losing to knight e3. Suddenly there is a mating net. Rook d2. Let's say rook e1, bishop b2, and we reach probably a draw. ab2, probably equality. Nobody is better here. We would get a drawn rook ending. And well, black will also collect this pawn. Anand play bishop f2, g5. Okay, now suddenly this knight is strong. This bishop is starting to look stupid. Okay, now he wants, of course, Anand wants bishop f1, and he wants to activate rook to e6. Queen back, asking questions, not immediately, but now he has to start being worried about this pawn. Knight g4, okay. Engine is saying here king h8 is the best move and wins. Magnus is playing by far the most logical human move. Because I'm not getting mated, so why to put king on h8, and I would love to collect this pawn. Also eliminate queen, because then I can queen myself. So what Magnus is playing is by far the most logical human move. After all, he's not an engine, he's human. And here, Anand could have saved the draw. He gave a check, which is okay. And here move rook e6 was actually back, was making a draw. Because if queen f5 is perpetual. Okay, if you don't play queen f5, let's say rook e8, rook d6, it's not easy to push this pawn. Bishop d4, only move. Because if you give a check, king f8, you run out of checks, this pawn will decide. So bishop d4 takes, push. And this position engine is evaluating as equal. This is again that you can give to somebody. Those are all very difficult moves. And you can give to player or to yourself a level of training that you would like to achieve. Anand here probably had some hallucination, or after all, okay, when you are playing a tough game, even if your name is Anand, you get at some stage crazy if opponent gives you too many difficult choices. Because actually this looks very sexy, but it is less great than it looks because of Queen D1. And now game is over. Now game is simply over. There are no more checks, there is nothing, and this pawn is becoming a queen. So this was again tremendous decision to take on a2. For example, who would take on a2? Well, Fischer would, for example, take on a2. For example, this is move of Fischer. He would probably take, move bishop b2. Move bishop b2 is also a move which Fischer will play. To create winning chances. And then to push opponent to limit, to find the best moves. And a lot of examples are like this. And many examples also are training examples throughout the book. And by the way, I would also like to give amazing credit to Quality Chess to investing a lot of time making book look the way a book looks like. Because you understand, all of you, when an author delivers a PGN with a book and book comes to final product, well, editorial team has to do a lot of great work in order to make the book look like the way you see it when you get it into your hands. So now we are at the end of this session. Okay, I apologize for Croatian internet not working the way I was hoping to be working. So I would like to go through maybe 10 minutes of a Q&A. If you have any questions about book or about Magnus or about anything, you can just go ahead and type. Okay, I think that the book is most suited for the level 1900 and above. And the book can be also used as a training for 2600, some positions. Ah, okay, somebody is smart actually. Yes, I see here Microsoft is downloading some update. Oh, I'm actually quite stupid. Yeah, I should have actually seen this sign. Yeah, this is actually stupid because my computer is doing a transmission and online update. Yeah, this is not very clever by me. Thank you, Brian. So yes, book will be great for 2400 player. 2400 player will improve for sure. Okay, who do I think will take? Might take Carlsen's title. I will be, of course, biased, but I'm putting my money on Alireza. Yes, I will write some more books after volume 2 on middle games. I will do this. I have a number of projects. Until the end of the year, I want to finish volume 2 on Carlsen. And I would like to maybe write a book, Winning Chess Middle Games First Move E4, because I wrote once for a new in chess first move D4. And I was asked by them to maybe write on first move E4. And this is what my plan is to get done until the end of the year, hopefully. Okay, moment, let me see. I was having some questions. Well, with the Magnus, okay, let me actually go up because I see that I have some questions which I didn't address. Moment. Okay. Okay, which are areas moment. Wait. Yeah, I think that Magnus, what I have explained in the book, and I have given a number of games which Magnus lost, trying to explain those areas. It looks to me like, unfortunately for him, Nepomniachtchi did not read my book, which maybe he should have, or anyhow he seconds. I think that Magnus is having a problems where he does not have a clear counterplay, but he does not have a pawn breaks, and also he likes space. Magnus is not very comfortable if he has less space and not clear counterplay. Those are kind of areas which I try to point out in this book, and also games which he lost as a kind of, let's say, something which, yeah, and of course, less good for his standards. And also the number of, I have tried also to explain in the book, like how does he fight when he's in trouble? And I gave a number of examples. I think that Magnus is unbelievably good and looking his best counter chances versus a human player. Maybe not making the best defensive moves, but making the best defensive moves versus the humans. Yes, I'm getting questions that there are a lot of resources nowadays on internet, and how can we get rid of this, or how can we find out what is good and what is bad? Well, this is not easy. Frankly, this is not easy. There is a lot of things on internet, and you have a lot of streamers, and I wish them all the luck, making a lot of money with the streaming. But being a streamer and being a good writer or being a good commentator, those are different professions. And well, those professions most of the time have nothing to do with each other. So those are, and how to get rid of this on internet, and how to figure out what is right and what is wrong, who is good at something and who is, what French people would say, charlatan. It is not easy. Sometimes too much information is also not too good. Okay. Okay. I think that I have. Thank you, Nicholas, that you liked my DVDs on chess-based 2. Thanks a lot. Yeah, in volume 2, question is, would I analyze Magnus Sicilians? Yes. I'm going to analyze Sveshnikov, correct. And I'm going also to analyze some of his failed Sicilians attacks, like, for example, once he had his great game versus Anand, where he did not manage to get a killer blow, which somebody like maybe Kasparov or Shirov would have done. So I will also include also a couple of losses in my next volume 2 on Magnus. I didn't come up to selection yet. I can, let's say, give you a small, let's say, of a peek in, just to give you an idea. If I go, if this is a killer chess, but if I go, let's say, to Carlsen, look, I'm having many kind of databases. For example, I have one database which you see Carlsen on Rossolimo. And this is going to come into book. I have here selected 22 games. Obviously, I'm not going to do Carlsen on Rossolimo 22 games, so maybe 5. Will be Carlsen on Marozzi. And I have database of 117 games of Carlsen, which I found useful. And I have used only 36 of them for my first volume. So there are plenty of them to choose from. So I have done quite a serious work in order to basically come to final selection and to get it somehow done for this book. And I will do a similar kind of thing for a volume 2, which now, since this match was very fast, I will take my time to do it. So like I said, most probably you will see it in the sales coming Christmas, something like this, because I have to get it done. Quality Chess has to do the layout. There is a lot of kind of work there. So probably roughly expect it sometime around the next Christmas. Thank you. Nicholas, who says that my work on Magnus is best of recent stuff out there, probably because I'm the only writer who has dared to also include a number of Magnus losses and to criticize some kind of decisions, which is not a thankful task if you are analyzing the best player in the world and one of the best players or the best player ever born. Okay, do we have any other questions? If you don't, then maybe, okay, maybe Kalia can type to people, though probably all of you know what is the best way to order a book on Magnus. And
I have already put a link on the website.
Okay.
And it redirects to Quality Chess website. And of course, you should always buy books from your local chess shops and support them. Okay,
and I'm here having a question. What are my views of forward chess? I have positive views of forward chess. I have a number of my books which I buy. I have bought many of my own books on forward chess, books of different people. For example, I bought a Gelfand of forward chess because I think that Gelfand's book Decision Making is a fantastic book. I did buy it on forward chess because, okay, I like to have it with me if I travel, or a number of other books. So my view of forward chess is very positive. I'm having question. Kalia, you're getting the questions when this.
Yes, Kushal is asking if we have any idea when this book will be on Chess Tempo. Chess Tempo is great. It's a great tool. I am not sure when the book will be available there because we are starting out and we really want to make sure everything works perfect before we put out more books of quality chess there. But so far, so good. We're very happy.
Okay, I haven't even heard for a.
No, it's still ongoing process and conversations and internal quality chess meetings.
Okay, then maybe question for you, Kali. I'm getting question. Will this lecture be archived somewhere?
We still don't know if this. So for sure it will be available for the students of the academy. We don't know if we are going to release part of it or whole of it on our channel on YouTube. We will talk about it and decide. We will keep you posted, everyone. We will send out an email if this happens.
Okay.
Yes. So, any more questions, guys? Okay, so this is a good question, actually. When can we expect this book to be available from ChessBase India? Well, we just need Sagar, Amruta, and myself need to sit down, see what books we need to send out, because, for example, we are waiting for some reprints on Yusuf, and then we will make another huge order of another 6,000 books, and we will ship them to India. And the road to Reykjavik and Magnus Carlsen Middlegame Evolution will be included in that order. Yes, lots of new books.
I don't know about final title of volume 2, because first, actually, the title is the least of a problem. I have to get the book done. Yeah, this is normally actually a situation. And then, okay, we will, in principle, I don't decide on the titles. I mean, I decide on a title together with the publisher. So we will, I think the title is the least of a problem of volume 2.
Yeah, it's we have covers and titles for Jakob's next 20 books. So yeah, that's never the problem. The problem is to sit down and write the book.
Yes, correct. This is a problem. And to edit it and to put a layout, this is a problem.
Exactly,
correct.
Exactly. But I will try and think of something to, when you know about what's happening, what the theme of the book will be exactly, then I will start thinking about the next cover.
Okay, I think that we are done with this session, if I'm
Yes,
right.
we are done. Thank you very much, Ivan, for your time.
Okay, thanks all of you. I'm sorry for these internet lapse, but finally we managed to get it going. So I think that it was a good session regardless. I hope so.
No, it was. I think it was a lovely session. I was watching it and it was very interesting. And well, with so many people attending at once, of course, we would have a small technical problem or two. But I'm very happy because the chess is great. The quality of the session is great. So I don't think anybody will complain.
Okay, very good. Then thanks a lot of you. And all right, until the next time.
Thank you, Ivan. Until the next time.
Okay,
Bye,
thank you.
guys.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.